All right. I got some little notes here. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the world's worst YouTube channel. So, in my hat here. So essentially, I just want to talk about what's happened the last few months. I think I'll open it with a quote from a book that I'm reading by Florence Nightingale right now, Notes on Nursing. Seems like a good place to start, as there was something said in the introduction to this book that was pretty just lined up with a lot of what I feel as a trainer and a coach, and someone who's been involved in sports since I was a child. I don't know where it is though. I didn't underline it like I thought I did. There's a lot of good stuff in here, but anyway, this is what I'm reading right now. So, that being said, it's the thought process behind reading this book, Florence Nightingale's Notes on Nursing, is to incorporate more of a medical mindset into being a personal trainer and a coach and an athlete for that matter. I'm 30 years old, and that being said, you know, I'm not in my 20s. I feel like I'm in my 20s. Electrical body scan the other day said I'm more like 25 than 30, which is all well and good. But yeah, I didn't think that was English. You can talk to me in English, bud. But I essentially, what I want to talk about is what has transpired the last 6 months, which was me leaving a full-time job, pissing off my wife, and stepping back into what I started, which was studying exercise science, studying fitness, being an athlete, encouraging others to be athletes. So with that came a lot of pitfalls, a lot of shortcomings. I fumbled my way through college and didn't devote to my studies as well as I should, but what I did experience was a lot of good stuff out playing rugby and learning all kinds of different professions, driving different equipment, doing some cool stuff in that respect. And then when I got into my first training gigs and stuff, went through my internship, started training people. I cut my teeth on personal training, like actually getting paid for it in an electrical muscle stimulation gym. And shortly after that, there was a guy that got rejected. He had conditions that he wasn't able to do electrical muscle stimulation. I was like, I'll train you. And this guy with a lot of pretty big medical concerns became my first client. This is in 2021, right when COVID was, you know, everyone was kind of shaking in their boots. And I started training him kind of with, you know, clenched cheeks, and it started going really well. He was severely underweight. He started gaining weight. Everything that I had spent years studying, because I had the mindset of I'm doing this for the long term. I'm not training. I don't want to coach I don't want to be in fitness for the short term to try to make like as much money as possible. Like I want to make a lifetime out of this. And that's what this channel is about too. You know, it's a slow burn. It's taken me a lot of time just to make consistent uploads, and I haven't done any uploads this week as far as training is concerned. But what I did want to do today is to piggyback off that, just talking about how I cut my teeth in personal training, is talk about what happened the last 6 months, leaving a job to pursue full-time training again. And what was I gonna say? Everybody's just dialed in with these comments, aren't we? Cut your teeth. I cut my teeth on, it's an expression. It means like, got my first experience like doing personal training. And anyway, to back it up for the posterity of this video, I started getting independent clients on top of the full-time electrical muscle stimulation. I was also moving pianos at the time. This is again in 2021. And I started doing contracting personal training out of another gym as well. And that was like 60 hours a week training, lots of people, sun up to sundown. And it was great. That was some of the, it's ironic because that, and then also when I was working 3 different jobs, playing rugby and going to school. So that's like 4 a.m. and I got done with my last job at 11 a.m. It was, and then waking up for conditioning like the next day. It was wild, but those were some of the best days of my life. And same with that time during 2021. But started managing the electrical muscle stimulation gym and dissolved all of my clients that were independent and contracted in 2022. And so that became kind of a, what I would call, you know, I was very indifferent about it because I wanted to have just my independent clients. I always had a vision of being more independent and doing that whole thing. It's been difficult for me to express how I wanted to get about these things, but I basically just wanted to be more and more immersed in fitness and everything. But quit managing the gym in 2022, got married, and yeah, I was managing the gym for about a year. And then right after our honeymoon, I came back. I was like, yeah, I don't want to manage the gym anymore because I felt like I'd cut back on my dreams to, you know, be more independent. I say my dreams. It's not like I didn't wake up as a child and be like, oh, I want to be the greatest personal trainer of all time. But as I've progressed in the industry, it's like, yeah, I do want to be here. I've got a lot to give. I've got a lot to that I still want to gain out of this field in knowledge and experience. And that's what I'm about to get into. But to breeze through this, in 2022, went back down to deadgum, just personal training at that electrical muscle stimulation gym, picked up a few more of my independent clients, and hooked up with some people that I was moving the pianos with, and I learned how to tune pianos and repair pianos. And we were moving pianos as well. So I was doing that more full-time, as well as starting to train again. Well, lo and behold, I had the same reaction back then, and this is like early 2023 at this point. And I was like, oh, this sucks. Like, I want to be in my field. I want to be doing what I went to school for. I went to Middle Tennessee State University and graduated with a degree in exercise science, played rugby there. And so I was like, I got to get back into training. I've only got my independent clients. Well, it's like, well, I probably need to get back to a gym. And so I walked into a Ninja Warrior gym, and that's anybody that's watched the channel and seen me doing Ninja Warrior. Anyway, I I stepped into the Ninja Warrior gym, and that became like a new field that I was really into and enjoyed. A different niche inside the fitness sports world. Worked there pretty much full time, got some of my clients back, and then more or less kind of went crazy because of some of the decisions that I was still making and that weren't good. And so I left the Ninja Gym, started doing carpentry work, then got fired for the first time, and it was basically for reasons that weren't even true. It was really wild. I won't get into that because I have a lot of respect for the guy that hired me. But he basically accused me of stuff that he was doing. I was just like, all right, well, do I have a job or not? He's like, no, you're fired. I was like, all right, that's all I needed to know. So I left there and was hunting, thinking of ideas, because as equally as I have enjoyed fitness, I also did excavation work for a while and loved operating equipment. I've worked a lot of jobs, but it was all, looking back, really good because it taught me to relate to more people. And in a training aspect where I've trained people from the age of 3 at this point to 88, I'm really fortunate to have experienced such a wide variety of people in different industries and backgrounds and financial statuses, even, because it just gives you better perspective. So I was hunting for a job and was like, well, I had this grand idea. I'm gonna build chess tables out of granite and like marble and stuff. I had access to like a place where I could get granite and marble, like scraps that people were throwing away. And I was like, I'm gonna make like some high-end chess tables. And in desperation, I was just scrambling. And so I was like, probably don't need to do that. Wanted to get back into fitness, but I had frustrated myself and my wife and others at that point with never being able to fully commit to the fitness vision, even though it's what I got my degree in and had trained hundreds of people and all that jazz. So with that, I took a job sanding guitars, and you can figure out probably pretty easily in Tennessee what company that was for. Very laborious, tough job. My fingertips from like where I used to was doing Ninja Warrior, my fingers and my hands are dirty but super calloused. And but from transitioning to that to doing the sanding work, I couldn't hardly wash dishes because my fingertips were like so cut down, and you kind of lose some of the ability to feel the guitars and stuff as you're sanding them. You lose some of that ability to find the discrepancies in the wood and stuff like that. So I did that for a while and enjoyed the work. Again, I like to do hard work. I feel like that's part of what being a professional in fitness should be in an ideal world, is you're kinetically, physically doing these things yourself in various ways. I mean, that's what's ironic is going to college, like the scientific mindset was like far removed from my highest set of skills. You take the ACT, it's like science, math, English, reading. Science was the worst for me. And so it was almost like I was filling a lot of gaps going to college to study more science and learning to write more scientifically, working on scientific papers, even just a bachelor's level. Really getting deep in there with all the scientific stuff. It did me a lot of good. Filled a lot of gaps that I had, and helped my analytical skills and my research skills. But I like to think that I've applied that research kinetically, physically, to the various jobs that I've had and the various sports that I've played and all the different types of training that I've done. More recently, the Ninja Warrior stuff, which, you know, over the next year is going to still be a pretty big part of that, of the goals that I want to talk about here. But essentially, now it leads me to my main point, which was December of 2024 rolling into January and February of 2025. I started losing my mind, and I'm not a massive guy if you can't tell, but I've gained 30 pounds since leaving the job in your dadgum factory work. I got down to like nearly 130 even, and I'm about 5'9.5", 5'10", and so that's not ideal. I've got a crazy metabolism as is. I pound coffee, and the resistance training had tapered off with the work schedule and not being as involved in fitness. But rolling January into February, it was like I kept having that mindset of like, nope, you gotta escape this. You gotta get back into the real thing, which for me, the real thing is committing and not looking back to fitness and exercise and sports and growing within that field and growing myself. And so that's what I did. And the last week of February of 2025 was my last day working in a factory setting. I took all these delineations after graduating college, doing different things, and each one of them was because I didn't fully commit to fitness and exercise. And so then March 1st came about, and I'm looking for roles back in fitness and exercise. Picked up a few of my old clients that I had, and they got back with me, which was great. And approached the Ninja Warrior gym that I used to work at, and now I'm still working there. Very part-time now because the last 6 months, through the training that I've done, I've got a full schedule of independent clients, one-on-ones, which is what I really enjoy, is doing the one-on-one sessions. It's gotta be more scalable in the next coming 6 months, and that's all well and good, but I digress from that for the moment. But yeah, started doing the Ninja Warrior again, started getting my clients back up. But the main focus was making money as independently as possible. And yeah, it should be held for review. Not quite, kind of far from it actually, but I do look pretty gay, don't I? I have to keep taking my glasses off to read when I'm this far away. I am a girl. Yep. Nailed it. So, essentially, over the last 6 months, I was doing deadgum Uber Eats for a while to make extra money, and that sucked, but and I had done it in the past to make extra income, but I tapered off of it leading into the summer of this year, and I'm dissolved it a lot more quickly than I expected. Shout out to Trainer Nico Fitness in Nashville for helping make that happen, my employer. But yes, I don't care. So let's see, then you can go away. But got that done, and yeah, got Uber done, and then started immediately picking up more clients and wearing it out and doing the ninja training. and picking up my own training and gaining 30 pounds again. Um, Messing around with rugby a little bit more, messing around with kicking a football, punting a football, which we'll see where that goes in the future. But it is something I just want to dabble with anyway to try and see where that can go. But the weightlifting too, I PR'd my deadlift over the last 6 months. I've helped people gain weight. I've helped people lose weight. I'm essentially doing all the things that I meant to do years ago. But at this point, I'm kind of where I need to be. But within the context of the next 6 months, it's going to look like a lot more smart work rather than hard work. And that is essentially picking the right clients, having to let some go if need be, and then taking it to a different level as far as competition for myself. The weights haven't been as heavy for me this week because I'm hitting the cardio so much harder, but I've also been running such a hard schedule. I'm just like, I'm gonna go easy on the weights this week. That's not to say that I haven't done resistance training, but it hasn't been as heavy as normal. So with that in mind, you know, the next month and a half is gonna be back on the resistance, but a lot more heavy cardio. I'll be running a 5K in a couple weeks, and I really got to focus in on that through the first 2 weeks of September and prep for it. And then I want to do my first Tough Mudder in October. I don't really have a strong desire to do CrossFit. We'll see about that. But, you know, I do respect it, and I'd like to give it a shot. But at the base of what I want to do, I want to be fully immersed in fitness and exercise and health. And so some of the things that I may have to do that are stepping into more of a medical type deal where I'm, you know, getting some hospital hours, because I feel like I need to have that aspect of it again. Why I'm reading Notes on Nursing by Florence Nightingale, because I want to incorporate more of a medical mindset into fitness. I made a decision in college not to do physical therapy because of how much I thought I could apply physical therapy to just fitness and your prehab versus your rehab, your prevention versus your rehabilitation. So that's served me pretty well. But in terms of your dadgum medical stuff, like besides being able to use a blood pressure cuff, like I don't have a ton except for being CPR and AED certified. I remember somebody putting an idea in my head of getting a wilderness EMT certification. So at some point I may do that, but yeah. The vision is to get the strength and conditioning certification from here, keep pumping up the weight, hit these competition things just to get back in the mindset of competing, because I don't want to be a coach or a trainer that doesn't compete. I've got a long-term vision of living out my 30s doing more fast twitch activity, and 40s doing kind of more of a balance between endurance and fast twitch activities, and then in my 50s, 60s, and onward, just committing more and more to endurance, and God willing, being that 80-year-old, 90-year-old man out there running your ultra marathons. I really don't want to touch ultra marathons or anything like that until my 40s. My 30s need to be a little more focused in that respect, because I already have like 7 different sports that I think in my head that I can play, and that couldn't be further from the truth, at least not in a professional sense. But that is a goal, is to kind of reach that professional status in the sport and um, be that as well as a better coach, always a better coach in training and fitness. And I think the next 6 months are going to look a lot like exploring a lot of different gyms in different states and different regions other than just Middle Tennessee. But yeah, in regards to training people from the ages of 3 to 88, it's a constant pulling off of one another in different fitness levels, male versus female, all these different aspects that you can pick apart and specify what's needed. And that's what I love about training individuals. And my vernacular, the way I say things, is a lot different with one person than it is a group. So I love the process of becoming a better professional, and the fact that I've been able to get where I've gotten in the last 6 months training people again. Again, shout out to the Ninja Gym and Cumberland Athletic Club and Fortified Fitness and trainer Nico Fitness around the greater Nashville area for helping me get further in that direction. There's been a lot of good things happen the last 6 months, but part of it's growing the YouTube channel and trying to commit more to that, because the other socials, they don't wind my clock like YouTube does, and I've always loved YouTube and been obsessed with it since I was a kid. But as far as the specific sports themselves that I want to be involved in, besides just like weightlifting and trying to be better at that, it could be CrossFit at some point, but that's a dead-gum cult. They do Olympic lifting, but it's a dead-gum cult. One that I'm not really drinking the Kool-Aid on as much, but that being said, Rich Froning is one of the people that I respect the most as a professional. I can't touch him in any regard, but I'm just saying I respect what he does. I respect his mindset, especially as his faith. But been playing rugby again a little bit, and unfortunately I didn't make it out to the first practices this week. It may be another month or two before I can really get out there, which sucks. But there's some different kind of tryouts that are happening in November, December, January that I'm trying to prepare myself for. Not to mention the Ninja Warrior stuff, which is where a lot of my concentration is going. Some of the weaknesses there that have to be improved from a competition standpoint is just the finger grips and gripping things more like that, gripping round grips, the speed and the thoracic immobility that I've had kind of going for a while, just stiffness in the mid back is starting to alleviate itself, which is really helpful. But yeah, I'm kind of where I need to be at this point, and couldn't be more grateful for that. Couldn't be more grateful for the vision of moving forward as a fitness professional, which is going to involve getting that nutrition certification. It's going to involve getting the strength and conditioning certification. It's going to involve, again, if not playing a professional sport, like being around these professionals to pick up more on them and to document, the knowledge as it's gained. I may end up doing a book review on this once I'm done reading it again, because I think there's a lot of medical philosophy that needs to be applied to fitness and vice versa. I think there's a lot of kind of fitness type mindset that needs to be applied in the medical field, but to kind of draw back on that theory or that hypothesis, I need to experience more in the medical field. So that's something that needs to happen in the next 6 months. Read my notes. But yeah, training moving forward, I want to live stream more of it. I want to live stream more of the runs that I go on, but I got to get a way to do that with my phone more than a GoPro, because the GoPro isn't going to cut it. At least not live streaming it, obviously. But yeah, I just wanted to go here for about 30 minutes, and that about wraps it up. Judging by a lot of these comments, got some big time morons in here, but hey, that comes with the territory, doesn't it? That's kind of what I'm asking for. There's nothing to lose at this point, so why not try to push past all the BS and just fully send it. With the sports, with weightlifting, with coaching and training, with education for myself and for others. It's all for life and learning, as my aunt once said to me. So as the sun sets here and I'm looking at this pool, I think I'll dip my feet in the water for a little bit longer and sign off for now. But yeah, I think I pretty much said what I wanted to say. So this is Plum Nearly Fit, Lane Spicer, and there's a lot more good stuff to come on this channel. So if you're watching it live, if you haven't watched it live, you're watching it in the future, I appreciate it.